thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And leave us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. I invite you to close your eyes if you have not already, and just begin to gather your awareness from the outside world, turning it inward, letting go of any effort that it took to get here this morning, letting go of any plans that you have when you leave, just giving yourself the gift of this time. This gift of reconnecting with that presence within. Just allowing your breath to slow down. Taking a few moments just to notice the rhythm of the breath. Being aware of that presence that moves the breath in and out. Breathing in the breath of God, breathing out the breath of God. And in this inner sanctuary, where our peace abides, we connect with that presence. That presence which is untouched by the atmosphere. is no power, no presence greater than that presence within us. There is no difficulty. There is nothing in our lives that is greater. And so we rest in that assurance that within us is everything that we need to meet anything that life asks of us. For that, we are so grateful. Thank you, God.
The road is long with many a winding turn, leads us to who knows where, who knows where. But I'm strong enough to carry him. He ain't heavy. He's my brother. So on we go. His welfare is my concern. No burden is he to bear, will get there. For I know he would not encumber me. He ain't heavy. He's my brother. If I'm laden at all, I am laden with sadness that everyone's heart isn't filled with the gladness of love for one another. It's a long, long road from which there is no return. While we're on the way to there, why not share? And the Lord doesn't weigh me down at all. He ain't heavy. He's my brother. And the Lord my sister. He ain't happy. He's my brother.
That is wonderful. It's always a treat to get to hear the music by Bree and Gary twice. Now, you can't say the same about the talk, but you know, I was just sitting at home yesterday saying, gosh, I have a talk waiting. I really, really hope somebody calls me and has me. Actually, we were joking in the first service. Charlene related how she had called me, and I told her the part she missed was my first call after we hung up was to call AT&T and put in caller ID. Make sure. You deserve better than that, Charlene. Definitely. All right, well, whenever I'm asked to do a talk, I always take a moment and see what thought comes into my mind. Sometimes it's instant. There's just a thing, oh yeah, I'd kind of like to talk about that. Other times it takes time. There are times I've started writing a talk and I didn't have any idea where it was going to go or where the inspiration would come from, if any. It's just funny that way. So I noticed, though, just yesterday thinking about things going through my normal routine and whatnot, on a couple of occasions I heard in conversation, I heard words, phrases, and things that reminded me that our thoughts drive everything. And there's a lot out there that we say that's good, but there's also quite a few things out there that we talk about, we give voice to, that doesn't serve us whatsoever. It's just the opposite. And I was explaining that one of my things I have is, there's a certain phrase that's very common in modern vernacular where it's even an acronym, OMG, oh my God. Oh, they're out of ketchup. Oh my God. Well, in my lifelong exposure to flying, for example, there's been more than one occasion where things were really, really interesting during the flight. And it wasn't until you get on the ground later that you kind of see your knees are knocking together. It's like, okay, well, I did what I had to do when I was, doing it, but later on it kind of catches up with you. And so I was even telling my wife one time, I said, unless the Hindenburg's blowing up in front of your face, I don't want to hear you say, oh my God, in front of me. There's, oh my God, and then there's like, isn't that a bummer? The reason I say that is when we use terms like that, it really catastrophizes things. And there's a lot of that in this world. We use a lot of really starchy language that really isn't warranted or called for. And as you've heard me mention in prior talks, history fascinates me. And if you read your history, and I mean really look at it in its, most basic essence, we do absolutely live in the best of times. And that's hard for some people to believe, oh, because what about this? What about this? There are certainly problems. There are problems in the human condition, but let me tell you something. In the past, there were problems with a capital P. And what we consider to be lack, even poverty in today's society, historically would have been abundance. And I'm not trying to dismiss anyone's situation. I'm simply trying to give perspective that in unity truth and unity principles, we have a saying, we make our own world wherever we are. I think in 12-step programs, they have a saying, no matter where you go, there you are. Because we create our world. That's why we believe in these metaphysical principles, these unity principles. It's why we read everybody from Emmett Fox to Emily Cady, Martha Smock, you name it, the Fillmores. They're in the bookstore out there. There's so many. Because the metaphysical principles are really about raising ourselves higher out of the person we are right now, the consciousness we have now. The person you are today is not the person you were 5 years ago. You're an improved version, most likely. Well, my sister's here. I can't say that for her, but for everyone else. I think my lunch invitation just disappeared into the thin air. But it's true. We're here by soul contract. I don't know how that works or whatnot. But each of us is here as God's child in order to grow. And how do we grow? We grow through life experiences. And what are many of the greatest life experiences we've had? They showed up in the form of something that we consider something very negative, a setback, a loss of something that was dear to us. We had to overcome something. Our plans that we had didn't turn out the way we thought, and we considered it the worst possible thing at the time. And they are, and I don't mean to minimize how bad those experiences can feel. But as we learn with these metaphysical principles, these unity truth principles, these seeming losses and problems, even catastrophes, always end up turning into some of the greatest blessings we've had in our life. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to be the guy I was 20 years ago. I was a good guy. I was all right. Wow. If you saw the looks I was getting. But that's not who I want to be today. And the person I want to be 10 years from now, has hopefully evolved from the person I am today. I think back to some things I believed or thought, behaviors I had and whatnot from 30 years ago, and I kind of cringe. You ever do that? Like, oh, I said that. So if we want to get more out of life, then we need to step back and we need to really think about connecting with our higher power that's going to, in the silence, is going to nudge us along, that still small voice, as we say. We admire a lot of athletes who do great things, maybe in the Olympics or whatnot. I love aerospace, as most of you know. So you look at what the astronauts have done, especially the guys back during Mercury, Gemini, Apollo programs through the 60s. I mean, heroes. Heroes with a capital H. And you look at the level of accomplishment they have. And what I came to realize later is I never saw what that athlete had to go through for 10 years or longer. Getting up at 4 in the morning because they had to work a regular 9-to-5 job, so they have to go running, 15 miles in the cold and everything, lace up their shoes when everyone else is still warm in their beds, and, making a commitment, putting in effort, having a vision and a goal. It's hard work and practice. That's what it is for the astronauts. That's what it is for all of them. They got there honestly. Hard work. Our faith is strengthened the same way. So if we want to get more out of life, that's usually God tapping on our shoulder, that divine spark when we have a thought about something that we think, there's no way we can do that. Have you ever had a thought of being something or accomplishing something, and then our lesser self kind of says, there's no way you can do that? You ever had that happen? There's a couple rows back there I can see. It's definitely happened to you guys, whether you know it or not. But yes. But what we have learned metaphysically is when we have a thought in mind, and you think, where did that come from? I couldn't do that, could I? That's a divine spark. That's a divine intuition. I'm looking out at reflections of God in every face that I see. It's a fact. We are all God's children. We were born with everything we will ever need to be successful and fulfill our most divine purpose in life, if we choose to do so. Thing that holds us back typically, at one point or another, it's not forever, but is fear. Emily Cady, Charles Fillmore, Emmett Fox have all said the same thing, which is daily focused prayer is what's necessary to grow and prosper, to achieve life's greatest blessings. And they also have written, and I can't remember which one, so I'm definitely plagiarizing a little bit here. I'm just going to have to say, I don't know who to attribute this to because it's one of three people. No tree ever withstood the winds and storms that wasn't anchored with deep roots. The key to success in life for every single one of us, not just our heroes, not just the people we admire or we consider the greatest successes, the key, everything begins with prayer, turning within. A steady, dedicated period of prayer. James Dillard Freeman wrote, "You may feel that you have no awareness that God is with you." Has anyone ever felt that way? I have. There are times I thought, I must be missing out on something. They talk about these things. I didn't feel like it happened with me. But you may feel you have no awareness that God is with you. If this is so, you can develop that awareness. How? He said you develop it through prayer. Period. Period, dot. End of the statement. And Charles Fillmore is a very bright person, and he could have written a whole treatise on prayer, but he didn't know it's prayer. The cornerstone of unity metaphysical truth is the fact that we have dominion over all things through the power of God within us and our mental discipline to demonstrate this power through action, which is prayer. So now we're touching on something which really differentiates unity in particular, but it differentiates the metaphysical type of thinking from regular dogmatic religion, if you will. What we think determines what we become. We have absolute power and dominion over our thoughts. Now, that doesn't mean we're not going to think some of the worst things at times. We're human. That's natural. But with these principles becomes the awareness where we say, and like my rule I have with my friends, I don't want to hear OMG from anybody. I've seen OMG moments, and then it shouldn't be trifled with. You can say, that's a bummer, that's a drag. Okay, that's fine. But it's the same way if we say, I can't do that. Ooh, I don't even feel right just saying that for demonstration purposes. We can do a lot. We can do so much more than we thought. So unity has always taught us, watch your words, speak words of truth, speak words that are proper, the direction is the proper direction because they have power. And as we speak to ourselves and as we speak out into the world is how things end up going. So I went back and looked at the definition. I think I read this one time before, but what is unity? And this is key. This church that we're sitting in was formed with a specific purpose. Each of you sitting here is looking for a certain something that maybe isn't elsewhere. I believe every religion has its good points. We have some people that go to multiple churches. They'll go to, during a Catholic service and a unity service. And unity says, good for you. Go wherever you feel spiritually fed. But what is unity? Unity is an experiential religion, not dogmatic. That is, unity stresses the internal spiritual experience of its adherents rather than a rigidly held code of beliefs. That's why you don't see some of the more orthodox going through the motions things. This is an inside job. I even mentioned in the first service, hope this doesn't bother anyone, but I've been to a couple other unity churches where they had music programs, and the music programs were really quite large. You know, there'd be a 12-piece band, and they're going at it in jazz, and they're very good. Wonderful musicians, wonderful music, very entertaining. Me personally, I couldn't connect because there was such a spectacle going on. It kept me from connecting with that inner thing. For some people, not an issue. So I seek that where music is an enhancement to the tone and tenor of the service, because unity tends to be it's inside out, not outside in. And that's what each of you, whether you're aware of it or not, is seeking. You're here. By the way, a comment was overheard at Unity headquarters many years ago by a couple of visiting businessmen. And as I said before, it's been so I was a kid when we went to Unity Village up in Lee Summit, Missouri, but I guess they have a big commissary or a cafeteria or what have you. Nowadays, food court, who knows? But these two businessmen were talking, and one asked the other, said, "What is unity anyway?" And the other one said, "Well, I think it's a little like Christian Science, only they have a lot more fun." I think there's something to that. But one thing that we're pretty strict about is that what we think will manifest in our lives, in these unity principles, are guidance to raise our thoughts higher, leading to changes for the better in how we think, which leads to positive outer changes in our lives. Chris Chenoweth, who writes the Daily Inspiration, does anybody still get the Daily Inspiration? Okay, a number of you. He was quoting Lao Tse, who wrote, "Watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become actions. Watch your actions, they become habits. Watch your habits, they become character. And watch your character because it becomes your destiny." And so once again, with unity, we always say, speak words of power, speak words that are positive, speak words of truth. By the way, one of the first ones I ever learned, my mom caught me saying one time, "Oh, I can't afford that." She said, "Don't ever say you can't afford something. Fact is, you could probably get the shekels together to buy something you wanted, but you choose not to." Do you see the difference in just how that's couched? I choose not to buy that car, right now, or this type of thing. Instead, I'll, do this. Because affirmations of "I can't afford" is an affirmation of lack. And it can seem tedious at times, but it becomes normal. It becomes a way of life when you watch your words, watch your words. A key obstacle to overcome this are the inevitable error thoughts of fear or lack. That really is what keeps us from maybe taking that first step. That is normal. It is to be expected. It's not true, though. Marianne Williamson, by the way, I put in my talk here, read Chris Chenoweth's July 15th of 2015 comments on fear and power of thoughts, and I looked through here and apparently didn't make it into the folder. So that was really a good look for me in the first service for about a minute or so. So we're going to move right on to Marianne Williamson. I think most of you have heard this quote before. It is spot on. In her book, A Return to Love, Reflections on the Principles of A Course in Miracles, she writes about fear. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You're a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We're all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give to other people permission to do the same. As we're liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Isn't that fantastic? But I do think sometimes there's a thing, oh, I shouldn't really, Well, you really should. You really should. I've met some people I truly admire, incredibly accomplished people, and they were some of the most modest people that I had met. And it allowed everyone else to participate in a discussion or something, and it really raised the level of everybody in the room. It was greatness in action. And you just think, wow, what a person. They could be all full of themselves and all, but just the opposite was true. Mike Dooley, who writes Tut, Notes from the Universe. Is anybody familiar with those? A number of you. He wrote in September of 2013, he goes, how do we best move forward with this newfound knowledge of our true dominion in life? He wrote, first of all, I recommend reducing time reading or participating in social media. Studies are showing that when people spend a lot of time in social media, more times than not, they feel worse after having spent that time than before they engaged in it. So it's once again about not something in the outer, it's about coming within. Now, back in, I think it was 2008, it was recommended to me by a couple of friends who knew better that there was a program called a Living Centered program put on by a company called Onsite, O-N-S-I-T-E, in Tennessee. And it was a week-long program where you just focused on really getting to know yourself better. Okay, give it a shot. They have a whole catalog of things. People who want to do marital classes, I think they have a bunch of 12-step type programs. But it's designed to make you a better you if you're so inclined to take the chance. And so when I arrived at Onsite, a lot about it was not what I was about. And for one thing, there were no phones for a week, no computers, there were no newspapers, there was no television, there was nothing. And got a couple of roommates, which is an interesting experience. Great guys, they were great. And at the end, after just a week, you feel like you know them better than you know people you've known your whole life, which is eye-opening. But one of the things they did there at Onsite, they did this thing called mindful eating. What in the world is mindful eating? Now, I belonged to a fraternity at University of Florida back in the late 70s, early 80s. And mindful eating was not something we practiced in that fraternity. Each table sat 8 brothers when we'd have dinner. When they would serve food, there were always 10 servings of whatever the food was, the entree. Like there would be 10 slices of meatloaf, 10 pieces of chicken, you get the idea. So if there's 8 guys sitting there, we're all 19, 20, 21, we're pretty hungry. So the first 2 of the 8 to finish gets a second helping. So we didn't learn to mindfully eat. I've seen shows on wild dogs in Africa that was more civilized than the way we ate in that fraternity. When I saw Animal House, I thought, yep, that's about it. That's about it. It was not our best look. So with On-Site, they had us do this thing called mindful eating. And they say, this is all voluntary. I'm there voluntary. Everyone's there just voluntary. And they said, when you have this food in front of you, let's say you're having breakfast, eating some scrambled eggs, take a bite of eggs, you put it in your mouth, and then you put your utensils down. Which are the fraternity utensils? But you put your utensils down, and you think about, the flavor of the food. Where did it come from? Who was the farmer who raised the chickens that produced these? What about the chickens? What about the truck driver that drove it there? And you're thinking it while you're chewing. And what we learned was the process of eating was no longer this unconscious thing. It was actually a wonderful experience. And at the end, we were just fine. And we had had a much better experience, and it goes with everything you have. And to this day, I think about food when I have it, and I always think to myself quietly, it's quickly, no one can perceive it, but I always think, what a blessing. Thank you, God, for this abundance. And thank you, Mr. Fish, Mr. Chicken, whomever. Thank you. I eat meat, but nonetheless, I'm still grateful when I do it. And that's an improvement in my life. I don't know what it is for you, but to me, it's part of being connected to that inner existence that we're all connected together. And once again, and this is a touchstone, really a cornerstone, if you will, of unity thinking. Martha Smock wrote that Jesus said, "You will know the truth, and the truth will make you free." That's John 8:32. The truth we are to know in order to make our spiritual breakthrough is that through the Spirit in us, we have dominion and authority. So now we're getting back to the power of words. We have dominion and authority over our thoughts, over our words. We take this dominion and authority in the inner realm of thought. Now, this is where some people, I've had some friends that have checked out Unity or whatnot, and they're like, I don't want to think that much. I don't know, that sounds like a stupid statement, but I've heard it. I'd rather just sit and be, and that's okay. That's where you are. I've been there. My wife thinks I'm there all the time. The more we pray and affirm our oneness with God, the easier it is to take control of our thoughts, to take control of our feelings, our actions, and our lives. Mary Kupferle wrote in her book, God Never Fails, if we need to sit in the silence and pray more often than we have in the past, then let us do so. It's just such action that relegates fear to its native background of impotency. If we believe that fear has only the power we give it, then let us refuse it any place in our life. We have that choice. And I think that's a novel thought to a lot of us. We thought, oh no, fear is its own thing. Absolutely not. Unity Truth Principles, we know that fear is limited. Fear is finite. Fear exists only if we allow it. Mary also wrote, fear is an emotion. It is rightfully subject to man, not man to it. Now, if we filled this room with a lot of very smart people, I think half the room would say, oh, that's not true. It's an absolute true. It's the law. Fear is subject to man's thoughts. Period. Dot. Over. No more discussion. Now, when we choose to start going within, we choose to start to develop greater this inner existence, following these principles, things are going to happen, and they may not happen the way you think they should happen. I know for myself, a lot of things didn't turn out at all the way I thought they should, but I wouldn't take anything for how they did turn out. This is where things like chemicalization come in. How many of you have heard about chemicalization? A few of you, once again. Emmett Fox was talking about chemicalization way back in the day. Chemicalization is a process where the new thoughts are replacing our old, worn-out thoughts. But the old is tenaciously hanging on. Things may seem to be going wrong, but hang on to your faith. So our error thinking, our limited thinking, our error thoughts, they don't want to leave quietly. So Emmett Fox describes the healing process of chemicalization. He says, and I quote, "It seems as though everything begins to go wrong at once. This may be disconcerting, but it's really a good sign. Suppose your whole world seems to rock on its foundation. Hold on steadily and let it rock. And when the rocking is over, the picture will have reassembled itself into something much nearer to your heart's desire." Remember we talked earlier about when we have those thoughts, a secret dream or a desire that we've never given voice to with anyone? That's there by divine appointment. And we have a choice, do we want to take action on it or not? So chemicalization is sort of like a divine way to say, are you serious about this? Are you serious about this new path you want to take in your life? Are you serious about these belief systems? Because they don't make you think twice, but in the end, just stay true to your course, and it will get better. Okay, so I'm now going to end this with Martha Smock's 5 action steps. Now, Martha Smock, many of you know, she's an accomplished author. She was the director of Silent Unity forever, a very, very long time. A real giant of metaphysics in and of her own right. So here's what she's saying to do when you choose to truly take dominion over thoughts, feelings, when things come up that don't feel good, that bring up these thoughts of fear, that cause us worry. That's okay for it to cause it initially, but then we get busy and we start practicing our discipline plan. So she said, here are 5 action steps. First action step, God first. God first. The first action to take before outer action is prayer in a positive, affirming way for the way you choose things to be. Jesus said, when you pray, believe you have already received. Second action step, pray to God for guidance and the power, courage, ability, and personal motivation to make the move and to take action. You ever done that where you're like, I know I need to take action, but it's like, ooh, I don't know, this might not work out well. Well, pray about it. Ask God, say, God, I need you to be with me. I don't know how to do this. I need your help. Third action step, outer movement in the direction that God has guided you to move. Sometimes we say you can take baby steps, but just some type of outer action that has you moving in the correct direction. Fourth action step is believe that God is going ahead of you, preparing the way for your good. I think we've all heard that one. God goes before us to make our path smooth and our way clear. In the fifth action step, and I particularly like this one, expect a miracle. Your purpose in this life is soul growth, and just as a boat is not meant to stay in harbor, you are not meant to stay in a place where you huddle and hide. All of us have had times where we've been reactive and other times where we've been active. I would venture to say that if you look back on your life, the happiest and most satisfying times were when you were living and taking action. She says, I invite you to take time this day to center yourself in God. And she says, at the beginning of every hour, take just 60 seconds to close your eyes and think about God instead of your problems. So every hour, just take 1 minute, close your eyes, think about God instead of your problems. Chris Chenoweth said about this technique, he said, if you do this every hour of the day, it will spark new ideas directly from God, along with a new vision and perception of the opportunity coming towards you. So there is really nothing but good news once we choose to think the right thoughts, to think thoughts of good, thoughts of truth. Chris Chenoweth sent me this neat little, you ever get these little sayings in a laminated card with a pretty picture? And he sent this to me, and it says, if you face turmoil, go into the eye of the storm, remain quiet, and rename the storm. And that's what we can do, because the sky is truly the limit for each one of us. Each one of us is here as an expression of God, and we know there is no lack or limitation in the mind of God. Therefore, everyone is here for a specific reason. I don't know what that reason is, but I know it's divine, and I know it's good. So maybe the next time we feel, maybe I don't want to take action on that divine thought or that dream I had, think about it again and just pray. Pray, 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 and you'll even notice the effect of people around you. They'll start to act in a different manner. Some people may go away who aren't in alignment with those thoughts that we think. So I encourage you to do that. Oh, there is a Emmett Fox quote. You can't quite go yet. Not yet. Close. A lot of disappointment out there in the room. Emmett Fox wrote, life is a reflex of mental states. As far as you are concerned, the character that things will bear will be the character that you first impress upon them. That you impress, not somebody else. Bless a thing, and it will bless you. Curse it, and it will curse you. If you put your condemnation upon anything in life, it will hit back at you and hurt you. I've made that mistake. Anyone else? If you bless any situation, it has no power to hurt you. And even if it is troublesome for a time, it will gradually fade out. Bless your body. If there is anything wrong with a particular organ, bless that organ. Bless your home. Bless your business. Bless your associates. Turn any seeming enemies into friends by blessing them. Bless the climate. Bless the town and the state and the country. Bless a thing, and it will bless you. And he finishes by quoting Isaiah 55, verse 11. So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth, and it shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. So really, we have the choice. And I think I know the decision of everyone here. We're going to go forth and we're going to bless things. We're going to pray and we're going to bless things, and just know that the best is yet to be. Thank you.